I'm running for the United States Congress because my community invested in me, and it is my turn to give back, to invest in my community. We have dire issues that are at the forefront of everyone's minds right now, and we need bold leadership that is going to stand up to fight, to protect our democracy, to expand healthcare, to further advance education, to protect our climate and grow our economy. And we need leaders that come from these communities and understand the difficulties that Americans are facing every single day, that are going to fight for them in the halls of Congress. It would be, I have two actually. Number one would be to sing. I love performing. And so I do, part of the reason why I like public speaking is because it gives me an element of performing. But I would love to be able to just have the ability to sing like Michael, or just get out there and I love music. Music is a big part of my being and my understanding of myself as a person. I'm a drummer, I'm a percussionist by skill. And so being able to sing to match the rhythm with the harmony and melody is something that is deeply inside me. The other thing would be like the skills of a doctor. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but if I can go back and rewrite my life, I would either be a firefighter or an ER doctor. That's a good question, and I actually reflect on it often. And I would say like there's very key points along the journey. Number one, like as I've gotten older, I realize the importance of it. But like my family has always been involved in this stuff. And I remember like being 3-4 years old and like catching the bus to go to the polling sites with my mom to vote. And then I also remember like going with my mom when she was working the poll sites. And like, I remember one time it was the biggest thing in the world, and like to my mom, right? And like, I guess I didn't understand the value of it. And I think it was the year before I started school. So I think it was 98. It was the year before my brother was born. And like, my mom was the person who got to ring the bell. And she was so excited about that. And like, I just remember hanging out in the polling site, like just watching people coming in, but like just being around that, right? And this is not even being involved in politics. This is investing in democracy. This is, and so just being around that. And then fast forward a few years, in 2004, the massive tsunami hit Southeast Asia. I was in elementary school as a 5th grader. I raised more dollars, or led a fundraiser that raised more dollars than like anything else in the school, right? Or anything else in the state or something like that. It was like the largest student-led fundraiser. And I remember it was just about inspiring people to do more. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew something happened. And like CNN came in and ran a special, like the local news ran a special about it. And it was like really cool. Like, again, like you don't understand the weight of it because you're just acting in the moment. And then and like in that, so it was all like in that, like those formative years of elementary school when I realized that like public service was my thing. So it actually, since I've started running for Congress, it's changed dramatic. I don't want to say changed dramatically. I just tapped into a different like pathway. So I used to love, and I still do, like documentaries, like the deep, heavy stuff. Like I mentally can't handle it, and so it like breaks my heart a little bit, because like I love watching a good documentary, I love watching a good story, a good heartfelt story. But now like I've had to switch because I need to turn my brain off because it's working so much. And like it's either one of a few things. It's either like one of my favorite TV shows that I either watch several times or I like watching, which is like ER, one of my favorite shows of all time, West Wing, SWAT, because I love like the old SWAT series and the SWAT movie. So something along those lines there. Also, I started Bel Air, which has been great, and I'm watching it with my uncle. So we're watching everyone. The heaviest thing that I've watched recently was Euphoria. And like that stuff was heavy. Or it's like a movie that is very high and intense. So like I like a lot of like military movies. Or like I just watched Black Hawk Down. Like it took me 3 days to watch it, but I just watched it like last week. And like or like action thrillers. because like it still forces me to think a little bit, but it's all like really high and intense. And like, so like if it's not like a military movie, then like The Taken, you know, like that type of stuff, you know, I like a lot of that. But like when I am in the mood for it, man, I'm a big softie. So like I love a good, you know, like rom-com every now and then, you know, or like and that comes from growing up with my mom, you know, like watching these movies, and I'm like, oh dang, you know, like, can you believe that so and so was cheating on so and so? I will say this, I watched probably like a month ago now. It was this quarter sometime, but I watched Best Man Holiday again, and I haven't had a artistic experience, you know, where I felt every emotion. And like I remember I was like laughing and joking and crying and sad and heartbroken and scared. I'm like, whoa, like this took me on an emotional roller, like a journey here. And so that was an event. Success is going to be defined, I would say there's 3 elements to success, and this is going to evolve, but number 1 is going to be, how can I maximize impact for Arizona? And even serving in the minority, what people forget about the United States Congress is you have tremendous ability to legislate, right? To work out potential opportunities to bring items back home. So what can I do to deliver for our district? You know, how can I help build that community center? How can I help, you know, repair the canals? I don't know, right? How can I be there? So that's going to be number 1. Number 2 is going to be, so number 1 is bringing initiatives back home. Number 2 is going to be about, I think number 2 and 3 are both under like the umbrella of engagement. Number 2 would be external engagement. So what like the big piece of success for me is like being present. And so, and my opponent is not present. And so it's going to be, you know, did I make it to the synagogue, the mosque, the church, that, you know, have I been to the senior center, you know, like the community event? Do people have my number? Can they call me? Can they call my office? Do they know, you know, like external engagement is going to be a key defining term of success. And then internal engagement, and this goes back to point number 1, but like a big part of being a member of Congress is relationships. And so it's going to be developing relationships with folks that I know I will be able to work with. I would say as an additive bonus in this administration, as a freshman, I will walk in with significant relationships with leadership on the Democratic side. I'll walk in with relationships in the administration, Secretary of HUD, Secretary of Transportation, with folks that we could really think through how do we deliver for the American people. But that needs to go back out and really identify the humanality of folks, and you know, where can, you know, who's the Republican I can work with on early childhood education? It's not going to be perfect, but we're delivering. You know, who's the Republican I can work with on infrastructure? It's not going to be perfect, like I said, but it's delivering. And so really developing those relationships. And I would say those are for me right now, would be the 3 core elements of success for term 1, if in the minority. I don't know if I have actually, we do seafood on Christmas. I think that, you know, like that's just something that you just traditionally like don't see. I mean, you see it a lot, like you see it in Black households, you know, but like it's especially being in Arizona and talking about it, you know, like, oh my gosh, you do seafood on Christmas. And I can't tell you over the years how many people have found out about it. My mom's friends, my grandma's friends, my friends, and been like, oh, like we want to come to your house on Christmas dinner. Y'all got the crab going, you know, you got gumbo, you got, you know what I mean? Like you got everything, you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I think that that's been something that has been a big piece of like of our tradition. I think the holiday seasons in general, the holidays are always really hard, you know, and really rewarding at the same time. You know, it reminds us, in my family, we've done a really good job of reminding us of the purpose of the holidays, you know, and like why it's so important. I would say growing up, like we didn't have a car, and so my mom would like, we would get on the bus and like go to the ride down to like different communities, rich communities, frankly, and like walk around and look at their Christmas lights. And like that was the biggest thing in the world. My mom is a big holiday person. And like as I've gotten older, it's been like driving around and seeing like we take a day or two and we just go, we hit all, I mean, it's the same things we see every year, but it's just like that time we spend together. And like there's always some other variation of it. It's definitely me, my mom, and my brother. My grandmother most years, my uncle who I just mentioned, who is in a wheelchair, and then my mom's other brother, who's a grocer, 20 years in UFCW, right? Like real American people. And so I would say like that's that. And then like another one that doesn't revolve around a holiday, that's like a tradition, is like, you know, when you all get together and you start chopping it up, right? Like as a family. Well, my uncle is an everyday American. And I say that because like this guy doesn't even have a Facebook account. He works at a grocery store and he is as happy as can be. Like I strive to get to that level of Zen in my life. You know what I mean? And like whenever we're all together, we're chopping it up and we're acting a fool. Like there is always some, we always have these conversations that turn into like these games. And like a big part of my brother and I's education growing up was like games and always revolving around music and stuff. So it's always something around like my uncle was like, all right, like let's figure out who can guess the state capitals. Or like my uncle was always like, oh, Jevin, you're the best. You travel everywhere. All right, what's your favorite airport and why? You know, and then my mom would jump in and be like, oh, well, this is it. And then my grandma would say, oh, well, what about this one? You know, and it's always some type of like game or competition or like some kind of scenario, like puzzle, right? In some way, shape or form that's a big part of our like be us, like our being. And so like while it's not like an official tradition, it's definitely like if we're all together at some point, it's going to happen. You know, like we're figuring out, we're making a list of our favorite, you know, burger places, I don't know, and why, right? And like we're all like, it's just a big part of like how we communicate with each other. One of which was the event we had on the rooftop at the Collective. And the reason being is because it was my first DC event. It was really cool, but I had people there from every stage of my life. And like that hasn't happened. Like it was the coolest thing. I had people there that were I grew up with, I went to high school, college with, that I know from my professional life, from my political life, from the congressional race, that knew my mom, you know, that knew my mama's state. Like, you know, like it was like people from every walk of my life. And it was the coolest thing to be in the city that I love, that has given so much to me, right? Doing what I love.